The report shows the very significant economic, financial and employment contribution that the sport horse industry makes to the overall Irish economy. It supports just over 14,000 jobs. It contributes 816 million directly in economic activity to the economy, and it accounted for 48 million euro worth of exports in 2016. So the economic and employment contribution is incredibly strong, but the most positive aspect is the very strong regional and rural economic contribution that it makes, and I think that is incredibly important. The most positive attribute that the Irish sport horse sector has is undoubtedly the reputation of the Irish horse. We have had some major global achievements in the last 12 months. For example, the most expensive show jumping horse ever sold on the face of the earth was going global. Ireland won a gold medal at the senior show jumping championships in Europe during the summer, and Ireland in 2017, for the 19th time out of the last 20 years, was the #1 eventing stud book in the world. Well, I think one of the biggest overall challenges is the fact that it is such a diverse, fragmented sector. You know, we're talking about lots of different activities around the place that make up the industry. So it is difficult for the sport horse industry to present a united voice, you know, when they're seeking support from government, for example. But the Indecon report of the summer of 2017, you know, laid out very clearly what needs to be done in terms of the governance and structure of the sector to make it more effective. Notwithstanding those issues, I think the other things that are clearly relevant to the industry, #1 is the quality of the infrastructure. So we need to, you know, improve and upgrade the overall quality of the infrastructure, you know, particularly the equine centres and the jumping arenas, to make sure that we can actually accommodate high quality international and domestic competitions and fields. So I think that's incredibly important. I think a second issue that it is facing is the lack of adequate prize money. If you are going to attract the top breeders, the top riders and the top owners into the industry, you need to make sure that they are adequately compensated. So I think the prize fund for breeders, owners and riders needs to be increased to, you know, increase the overall attractiveness of the sector. And I think the third bit is around education and training within the sector. You know, the sector needs to make sure that everybody involved in it, from the top end to the bottom end and everything in between, needs to be as professional as possible. So I think education and training in horsemanship and how to handle horses is an incredibly important factor. And I suppose the other issue then that is very relevant, that is a challenge, is, you know, the further down the food chain you go, you know, the less organised, the less professional it is. But I think the way to address that is through a top-down approach. You know, if you invest heavily at the top end of the market, increase professionalism at the top end of the market, you know, the expectation is that it will gradually feed down through the rest of the industry. Well, the latest figures show that in 2016 the thoroughbred sector employed over 28,000 people in total in the economy, and it contributed 1.84 billion in real economic activity. And just like the sport horse sector, you know, the real attribute of the thoroughbred sector is that it has a very broad regional and rural distribution. So we're talking about lots of owners, lots of breeders spread throughout the countryside. We're talking about a lot of racetracks spread throughout the countryside. So the contribution to rural and regional economic activity is incredibly impressive. And given that one of the priorities of the current government is to try and boost regional economic development, I think the sector makes a very, very valuable contribution. Well, I think the key and most obvious positive attribute of the thoroughbred sector is its international reputation. You know, if you want to pick one segment of the Irish economy where we very definitely punch way above our weight, it is in the thoroughbred area. 21% of the top 100 flat horses in the world are Irish bred. We recently saw the achievements of Aidan O'Brien, which very definitely puts Irish racing and Irish training on the world map. Here in Ireland, we own 50 thoroughbred horses per 10,000 of the population. Australia would be regarded as a very strong country in that regard. They have 28 per 10,000 of the population. And in the United States, the United Kingdom and France, you're talking about 3 per 10,000 of the population. So there's just such a strong culture of breeding, of training, of racing thoroughbred horses in this country that it has very definitely put us up there on top of the global league table. I think the biggest challenge facing the thoroughbred industry in this country emanates from the success which it enjoys internationally. Ireland punches way above its weight in the international thoroughbred and bloodstock industry. Maintaining that position will have to be, the priority of everybody involved in the industry. The government currently spends 64 million on the industry through the Horse and Greyhound Racing Fund. That money has been used really wisely. It has delivered very, very strong dividends for the Irish taxpayer. I think we need to ensure that we continue to invest at that sort of level or more to maintain the quality and reputation of the industry. The most immediate challenge facing the sector, apart from that whole reputation and quality issue, is undoubtedly Brexit. 80% of bloodstock exports out of Ireland go to the UK. So with the weakness of sterling at the moment, that obviously creates massive challenges. The longer term issue revolves around the sort of trading relationship that Ireland will have with the United Kingdom post-Brexit. If barriers go up to that trade, well then that is a significant problem. Currently, we have a tripartite agreement between France, the United Kingdom and Ireland, which allows free movement of horses throughout the 3 countries. Post-Brexit, there is no guarantee that that tripartite agreement will actually apply. That clearly would be a massive challenge for the industry. I think it is essential that we continue to invest in the quality, the physical quality of the infrastructure and the quality of the horses that we produce. So in that context, the redevelopment and investment in the Curragh is absolutely essential. And I think it's also absolutely essential that we continue to invest to ensure that the bloodline of the industry is preserved and enhanced. So that will require, a lot of expertise that can only come about through increased funding, training, education, etc. So I think the future is very bright for the sector. It is in a very, very strong position, but we will definitely have to run faster and faster to stand still.